out of every 5 guns, one of them was a ghost gun. And I can tell you that the numbers for gangs, just gang filings of ghost guns in our office has gone up a tremendous amount. We are seeing them constantly.
Welcome to Crime News Insider, presented by the San Diego Deputy DAs Association. We are real prosecutors with decades of experience and are here to give you our inside take on the latest crime news. Here are your hosts, Deputy DAs Lori Hoff and Jorge Del Portillo. Today's episode, we're going to talk about ghost guns. They are on the rise. This is after here in San Diego, there was a mass shooting downtown. 4 people were injured. 1 person died, and authorities mentioned that a ghost gun was used. Lori, I don't know if you've seen it, but I've seen an uptick in my cases with ghost guns.
Jorge, we are just starting to talk about an issue waiting to happen because I think law enforcement, I think we have here at the DA's office seen this increase in ghost guns. Those are those polymer guns, and we'll talk a little bit more with our guest in a minute about what they are, but they are on the rise. They have been on the rise, I would say, over the last year to 2 years. And we are just starting to see people take notice because we're having an increase in violence and we're having an increase in people getting caught with them all over the county, especially in San Diego. But it is becoming an issue that we really need to get a handle on.
Yeah. And I mean, you work in the gang unit, I work in the narcotics division, and I'm sure we're both seeing it. I know we've had cases where we find not only people committing crimes with ghost guns, but ghost gun manufacturers where they're actually building these guns and distributing it to who knows who. And there was an article just on Monday. We're recording this on June 17th, 2021. There was just an article on Monday by Terry Figueroa with the UT about the ghost gun rise in San Diego.
Yeah, and I think that it was a start in terms of identifying some of the issues. Basically, it focused on SDPD's numbers and the numbers that they were able to provide, which were basically ghost guns have skyrocketed. In the last year, officers, I think they said, impounded 211 ghost guns, and that was triple of what they were recovering in 2019. So basically what the article says is that out of every 5 guns police were seizing, and this is SDPD talking, out of every 5 guns, one of them was a ghost gun. And I can tell you that the numbers for gangs, just gang filings of ghost guns in our office has gone up a tremendous amount. We are seeing them constantly. It's a big problem. And I'm glad that it's finally getting some recognition in the community through the UT, which I think is a start in terms of quantifying and determining what are the numbers out there.
Yeah, and I agree. And it's not just a problem, obviously, in the city of San Diego. It's also a problem in the county of San Diego. And with us to talk about ghost guns is Sergeant Albert Carrillo with the San Diego Sheriff's Department. Sergeant Carrillo started with the Sheriff's Department back in 2001. He worked for the county jail for 4 years, then went on to patrol at the Lemon Grove station. He worked at Lemon Grove for 10 years, 3 of which were as a detective. Then he went on to the gang task force as a detective for 4 years and was promoted to sergeant. He's been a sergeant for just over a year and currently on the gang enforcement team in the San Marcos station. Sergeant Carrillo, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So tell us, if you can, and explain to our audience, what is a ghost gun?
Well, it's just a gun like any other. You're purchasing it in parts mostly, and it's replicates a very popular make and model of other guns. They're easy to assemble, and our current problem is I believe people are buying them in bulk and then reselling them and distributing them to people that shouldn't be having them.
I have a question. So we haven't always called them ghost guns. I mean, I think when we first started hearing about it, they were called polymer parts or polymer kits. But essentially, Sergeant Carrillo, is it your experience that ghost guns or these parts that can make a complete gun are cheaper than purchasing a metal, for example, like a Glock or a 9mm?
The entire gun's not polymer. It's a lower portion of the firearm, and like I said, it replicates a gun that is sold worldwide. It's a popular manufacturer, and they're not hard to put together. And it being called a ghost gun is because it can be registered or traced, and people don't need to go through a background check to purchase these firearms.
So you could buy them online without many problems at all. Anybody could do it.
Correct. There's no need for any documents filled out or pay. You don't have to even pay by credit card, or there's no names attached to these firearms, which is the real problem, I believe.
So are people, when you're saying they could pay for these parts, and you said it's a lower part, are they buying the entire ghost gun, or are they just buying the lower part that you're talking about?
Well, when I was talking about the lower portion, that's the polymer portion of the firearm. It's essentially like a plastic. The rest of the firearm's metal. You can purchase all the parts, online, or you can go places and buy those parts.
When you said that there's a lot of problems with buying in bulk and then reselling, and when you said reselling, that the dangerous parts about that are the fact that they are getting in the hands of the wrong people. How does that happen?
Well, my beliefs are that somebody is profiting from this somehow, right? So their concerns aren't following the rules that are set by law, and they're just selling them to whoever wants to buy them.
Are you seeing, so you're in North County, North San Diego, are you seeing issues with ghost guns in the hands of gang members, in the hands of our youth? What are the main concerns that you have at this point for public safety?
Yeah, so definitely there's a huge problem. I got in patrol over here at San Marcos Station a year ago, back in March. The deputies on my team were fairly proactive, and they were encountering these gang members, and majority of them were armed. It was pretty surprising that they were armed. Back in my patrol years, the only way they were getting firearms was through family members that had them registered, or they were stolen. In this situation, they're not stolen. They're manufactured guns that are not registered.
And these are people that presumably would not pass a background check if they were going to try to buy a legitimate gun. Is that right?
Correct. These are people that are prohibited. Mostly, the reason they're prohibited is because they have prior felony convictions, and they would not be passing a background check. And
then obviously, if they're not passing a background check, they have some a checkered past, maybe some criminal convictions, or they're just, like you said, like a part of a gang, and they're going to be using this not just for home self-defense. They're going to be using this out on the street.
Yeah, their intentions are to commit other crimes, and either robbery or felonies, and most of the time it's in the benefit of the gang that they're a member of. Yeah, it's not a good situation up here.
So I was going back to, even December of 2020, the North County Gang Commission put out this annual report, and basically every city in North County at that time were flagging that issue. Hey, we have a problem with ghost guns. Hey, we're every time we're stopping somebody and they have a gun, it's now a ghost gun. And so, the proliferation of it, even in just the last 6 months, has really just taken hold. It is a serious problem. How is law enforcement dealing with that problem?
At this point, we're continuing to be proactive out there, and when we do get these people with the firearms, we try to determine what's the best course of action in filing these cases. We've seen that pursuing the federal prosecution has been helpful in this situation. But just 2 days ago, we just got another agency in this area stopped a gang member in a vehicle, and they had a ghost gun. And on my team, I'm the sergeant for the gang enforcement team, and we just had one a couple of weeks ago that we got off a gang member as well. So the frequency is just it's ridiculous. I can't believe these people have access to firearms. And
the ultimate concern is obviously, that somebody's going to get shot potentially a rival or even an innocent person, a bystander. We see it happen all the time. And we've seen, through COVID, for a number of reasons, we've seen an increase in homicides. We have statistically. So, the more guns that are in the wrong hands, potentially the more gun violence we have, the more murders we have, the more shootings we have, or assaults, or people that are getting seriously injured. And my concern is, we have innocent people that are going to get hurt, and it'll be an accident potentially, but they could be hurt.
Yeah, they definitely don't have any concerns with what they're doing at the point that these violent crimes are occurring. They're not concerned with who's in the background. It's just their main function is to deal the damage between their rival gang, basically. And it's unfortunate that people are going to be in the wrong place at the wrong time.
And Jorge, you were looking at sort of what's being done federally. Can you tell us about that?
Yes. So the Justice Department, it was announced earlier this year, they are imposing or proposed rules to impose restrictions on ghost guns. They require retailers to run background checks before selling these kits that allow someone to readily make a gun at home. They're forcing manufacturers to include a serial number on the firearms frame or receiver. And Sergeant Carrillo, if these rules are adopted with ATF and the Justice Department, then if we have a serial number there, we could probably do some tracing on the law enforcement side. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. It'll come back to the original purchaser or the seller as well. And then we can investigate thereon, determine if this was a legal purchase or we need to now investigate the people that are purchasing these firearms in bulk and then reselling them.
But one of the things I wanted to ask is, when we're talking about ghost guns and these popular guns, are they handguns? Are they assault rifles? Have you seen them all?
Yeah, so I've seen them in both handguns and rifles. Typically, we see more handguns. They're easier to conceal and hide. But we have had some rifles, and we've gotten those off of gang members as well.
I'm glad that there has been some news coverage recently about this, because it's, it deserves our society's attention to it, frankly. And I'm just wondering, as we move forward, how, this is kind of an opportunity for you, Sergeant Carrillo, to educate the public, educate our community about, the dangers and what we can do to, protect each other. What advice would you have?
I mean, if you know somebody to have a firearm that shouldn't have one, please call the police. There's definitely ways we can do it so that we can protect your identity and you can be forthcoming with the information, and then we can investigate and hopefully get the gun off the streets, especially if somebody knows who's manufacturing these firearms. Nowadays, a lot of this stuff is posted on social media, so it wouldn't be hard for somebody to see a post that is advertising the sell or manufacture of firearms, and they can then contact the sheriff's department or any agency and report what they've seen.
And sometimes they could do that anonymously, right? Either through your department or Crime Stoppers as well?
Of course, yes.
Awesome. Well, we'll put that contact information for Crime Stoppers and your department in the show notes as well. So thank you.
Yeah, I think that's good advice. We've talked about hate crimes on this show. We've talked about other things. And really the theme for our community is, if you see something, we need to say something. If you see something, you need to say something. And that includes, the proliferation of these types of weapons, because they can get in the wrong hands and we can have some serious damage caused to our community as a result.
Well, thank you so much, Sergeant Carrillo. I really appreciate you coming on the podcast and educating our community about this rising issue. I mean, we're still going to be seeing it as long as there's 3D printers out there that are making these parts, and the more regulation that we have on them, the better chance we have that they don't fall in the wrong hands.
That's right.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much. And you are in luck, because you are here and you get to take Jorge's quiz, which we, no pressure, Sergeant Carrillo, but so far we have stumped him. Well, actually, he has not stumped us yet.
Yes, Lori has,
so we'll see.
Has won every single time. And yes, so we always end the episode on a light note here. We look at the laws on the books. 3 are real, 1 is fake, and you have to guess which one is the fake. Are you ready?
Okay. I am ready.
All right. So here we go. Item number 1. In Texas, it is unlawful to engage in celebratory gunfire unless blanks are used. Item number 2. In Wyoming, it's unlawful to shoot fish. Item number 3. In Massachusetts, it's unlawful for a shooting club to allow members to shoot at targets with human silhouettes. And item number 4, in California, gun sales are prohibited at the Del Mar Fairgrounds in San Diego, California. So, Sergeant Carrillo, you are our guest. You get to go first and tell us which ones you think are real and which ones you think are fake.
Well, you mentioned there's only one fake one out of this,
yes,
right?
There's only one. You only get one is one I totally made up.
Okay. I'll go with the one in Texas.
One in Texas. It's unlawful to engage in celebratory gunfire unless blanks are used. That one is the fake. Okay. Any thoughts behind that?
Well, I just, I think Texas is just a little loose with their laws, and I think this is the trick one here.
All right. Sounds good. I like it. Lori, what are your thoughts?
I think this one we might get stumped because it's hard for me. That I think that's a good point on the Texas one. In Wyoming, I think it's probably unlawful to shoot fish. They have a lot of wonderful streams, and they probably want to promote.
What if it's in a barrel?
Fishing.
What if the fish are in a barrel? That's what I want to know.
Well, that's a good question. In Massachusetts, it's unlawful to shoot at human silhouettes. I think that's probably a law that's valid out there. And in California, it's really hard to keep track of all of our gun laws and the case and the judge's rulings on them. But I do believe that the state of the law is that it was passed, that I think it was gun sales at all state grounds. And I think that is still, I don't think that's been overturned. So I think I'm going to go and agree with Sergeant Carrillo on this, the Texas law.
Awesome.
Being false.
You guys are all in. Well, I will take these in reverse order. So let's start with number 4. Item number 4, in California, gun sales are prohibited at the Del Mar Fairgrounds in San Diego, California. We are all San Diego residents. Do you know the answer to this? Is this a law on the books? And the answer is yes. Yes, it is. It's actually Food and Agricultural Code 4158. It says, notwithstanding any other law, you shall not contract for, authorize, or allow the sale of any firearm or ammunition on the property or in the buildings that comprise the Del Mar Fairgrounds in County of San Diego. It specifically says Del Mar Fairgrounds. This was specifically passed because there used to be some gun shows at the Del Mar Fairgrounds. It was passed and it was effective this year. So I was hoping seeing if you guys were up to date on the San Diego law, and you guys were. Good job.
And I think that it was also followed up and passed in the legislature that was signed by the governor, and it applies now to all state grounds,
now
not
all
just
state
the Del Mar
grounds.
not just the Del Mar Fairgrounds. Yeah.
Interesting.
I think that's the current state of it.
It sounds like you know this law more than I do.
And you know what? It's constantly changing because we could have a judge overturn that in a hot second. So we'll keep everybody posted on that.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, we'll have to do a follow up and make sure I was accurate with this. Okay, going in reverse order. Number 3, in Massachusetts, it's unlawful for a shooting club to allow members to shoot at targets with human silhouettes. You guys think this is a law on the book, and this law is on the books. Chapter 140, Section 131 says such clubs shall not permit shooting at targets that depict human figures, human effigies, human silhouettes, or any human images thereof. I always thought those targets have human kind of shape outlines, right? But
they seem to.
Yeah, maybe
not in Massachusetts.
Maybe not in Massachusetts. I don't know.
Well, what are they shooting at then?
I don't know. Just like an ordinary target,
like a circle target.
Maybe they just do it without the head. I don't know what's worse. So yep, that is a law in the book. If you go to Massachusetts and start shooting at a shooting club and you see a human target up there, you tell them you listen to this podcast, and that is against the law. All right. So going to number 2, in Wyoming, it's unlawful to shoot fish, whether in a barrel or in a stream. You guys think this is against the law? And you guys are Correct. You guys win. Oh my gosh. 3 in a row. Jorge is swept. Wyoming statute 23-3-201. No person shall take, wound, or destroy any fish of Wyoming with a firearm of any kind or nature. That kind of makes sense. It's a misdemeanor and it's punished up to $1,000 and 6 months in jail. So see some fish in a barrel, do not shoot at it because it doesn't say it has to be in a stream. That all means you guys are correct. In item number 1, in Texas, it's unlawful to engage in celebratory gunfire unless blanks are used. This is actually not a law, but it was going to be a law. And do you know why this was going to be a law that eventually failed?
Because it's dangerous. It's dangerous to I mean, we have negligent discharge here in California. Because, you know, what goes up must come down. Exactly.
And what went up in 2017, January 1st, New Year's, was a bullet that ended up landing on a state representative in Texas named Armando Martinez. He was outside with his family. They were doing some fireworks. Someone fired off a round and it landed on his head. And it was millimeters away from killing him, the doctor said. After that, he proposed the law that said, I mean, in the city of Houston or in the city areas, it was already illegal. But in the rural areas, you know, where you could fire off guns, he said, you know what, this is too dangerous. I almost got killed. I'm going to propose a law that you got to use blanks at least. And they shut it down. So if you want to go celebrate New Year's Eve in the rural areas of Texas, you still can. So good job, everyone. Good job, Sergeant Carrillo.
Thank you.
You nailed it. And Lori, of course, you were defeating me left and right.
I know. I'm on a roll.
I am going to find some better ones. Next one, I'm going to guarantee a win.
Okay.
I don't know how I'm going to guarantee it. Maybe I'll pick 10. All right, Sergeant Carrillo, thanks for joining the podcast. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
And Lori, thank you as always.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thank you both. It was great time as usual.
And thank you to everyone for listening. We have over 100 unique listeners, Lori, and over 200 downloads. We are growing, so.
My family's pretty big, though, so.
That's good. Well, thanks, everyone, for listening, and we'll catch you next time on the Crime News Insider Podcast. Expressed on this podcast are solely of the speakers and do not reflect the views of the Deputy DA's Association nor the District Attorney. Questions and comments can be submitted through our website at sddaa.net. Remember to follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Our Twitter handle is @San Diego DDAs. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.